plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com, enter WTF. I feel like as time goes on, because of texting, I'm losing pronouns. I no longer use a lot of words that I should use to communicate when I write.
I've kind of gone the opposite direction, I think. I've become very formal. Full stops, capital letters.
On texting?
Yeah, totally. Oh, even more on texting. On texting, I'm like very rigid.
Well, that's that must be a real pleasure for the people who receive your texts.
And then it's probably boring. They go, oh, God, get on with it.
Yeah. Don't text her. It'll be forever. You'll just get
exactly.
an entire novel. Where are you?
I mean, we're in Tahoe, actually.
Oh, that's close.
Brilliantly. And luckily, yes, we just finished building a house here. And we just made the move from LA, literally 6 months before the lockdown happened.
Oh.
So, oh my God, we got locked down in one of the most beautiful places.
So you're right on the lake, kind of?
Not right on, but I can see it from here,
Oh, that's pretty.
The trees.
Are you happy?
It's really pretty. And, incredible air and just endless entertainment by wildlife,
What do you see?
Chipmunks and golden mantles and squirrels and about 10 different kinds of birds. I saw a bear the other day. Great big black bear came by and stole all my bird food.
Oh, really?
So I went out and I said, bad bear, naughty bear, very naughty bear. And he sort of looked at me and lumbered off. It was a big black bear.
That didn't scare him too quickly?
Well, funnily enough, I was just reading a book, a little pamphlet about, wildlife up here. And they were saying what to do if you encounter a bear and it's looking aggressively at you and hunching its back and looking like it's about to charge.
Yeah.
And they said, you make yourself look as big as possible. If you can, grab a stick, make yourself look big. And then it literally said, and then shout, bad bear, bad bear. So I can't wait to meet a bear and shout bad bear at it.
It seems like something that you might have done on stage before.
Well, there is of course that famous stage instruction in Shakespeare, which is exit followed by a bear.
Right, exactly.
And there's no enter a bear. He doesn't say enter a bear, or the bear doesn't take part in the scene. It's just this stage direction, exit pursued by a bear.
Rapidly, that means.
Yes,
well, I mean,
exactly.
you've dealt with, it's funny because I feel like I've known you my whole life because I've seen you in things. But for some reason, when I went back and watched the other night, speaking of, acting with bears, is that I watched Long Good Friday.
Oh, yes. Yes. My dear little bear. Yes.
And
yes, Bob.
Right. But that scene where you have to calm him down and tell him to get hold of himself. I mean, that was like trying to stop a bear. Yes,
it's true. And Bob had this incredible ability to sort of look like he was like a kettle about to explode or something, something you put in the microwave and you should have taken the lid off and it's just about to completely explode.
Yeah.
He was brilliant at communicating that sort of explosive thing.
It's sort of a great movie. I had seen it when it came out when I was in high school, and I remember it being sort of a bleak movie. That ending is a little rugged.
Fabulous, yes.
Right?
Pierce Brosnan,
right?
The Irish guy. Pierce,
no lines. A young Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, it was an iconic movie at the time. Many sort of British gangster movies followed on after that one, but that really was a trailblazer in the sense of the sort of British gangster movies. Brilliantly written by Barry O'Keefe, who very sadly very recently died. But it was an amazing piece of literature, and what's amazing in that movie too, if you know London, is what was being proposed in that movie, which was the development of the East End, the Thames, down at the Thames, on the east side of London, is exactly what happened. Canary Wharf was built,
right,
and all of those flats, millions of flats were built, apartments were built along down there. That whole area has become completely developed, exactly in the way that Long Good Friday was talking about. So the landscape that we shot on when we made that movie in Eastern London has changed completely.
Of course.
If you go down there now, it's a completely different view.
Do you keep a place there? Are you connected to London?
Yes, and actually that's where I live.
Really?
Actually down in Wapping. Yes,
yeah.
just a few yards from where we shot a lot of Long Good Friday. Actually,
what part of London did you grow up in?
Well, actually, I didn't grow up in London. I was born in London,
and then you
so
went.
I'm a Londoner. But we moved out to a sort of dormitory town. I explain it to Americans by saying I grew up in Coney Island. But because that was the kind of place, Southend-on-Sea is down on the Thames estuary. It's where the East Enders traditionally would go for a fun weekend, which consisted of eating fish and chips or cockles or winkles, getting drunk, having a fight, throwing up and going home. That was the sort of slightly the tradition in the 50s.
Was there a roller coaster? Any roller coasters?
Oh, there was roller coasters. I used to work in the amusement park called the Kurzel.
You did?
I did, yes. I blagged. Did you know what blagging is?
No, you're going to tell me, though, I think.
Blagging is when you sort of shout something incomprehensible out to someone just to get their attention and to bring them over to your stall,
We have a president that's doing that every day.
We do, absolutely. He belongs in an amusement park.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest blaggers of our lifetime.
Yes, he has afforded a lot of laughs, I have to say, and a lot of fear. And horror,
monster.
But quite a few laughs too.
So you used to work at what amusements did you work at? What was where did you?
Well, I worked on a dart stall when I worked there. So my job was to get people over just to get their money to play darts and give them a horrible little toy, thing.
Why'd you end up there? Why did your family live there? Your parents just...
Well, because my parents worked in the East End. They met in the East End. My dad actually used to before he was a musician, but he couldn't make. It was very difficult to make money at that. And as a very young man, he worked for a Jewish tailor, and the East End was traditionally at that period was where the Jewish community, the immigrant Jewish community, lived in the East End. So there was a wonderful old tradition of Jewish delicatessens and Jewish businesses in the East End. And one of those businesses was tailoring. And my dad actually worked for a Jewish tailor in the East End. And my mum was an East Ender. She came from West Ham.
And were they mostly, because your father immigrated as well, right?
My father was Russian, born in Russia.
Were the Jews mostly Russian or Polish, or did he?
The Jews were, yes, a lot of them were Eastern European Jewish people, of course, absolutely. Escaping from the ghettos of Poland and.
So I wonder, did your father speak?
Russia.
Did your father speak Yiddish or
no?
Polish?
My father wasn't Jewish. My father was a white Russian.
But he was working for him, so I thought maybe.
But he was. Yeah, that's true. I bet he picked up a few Jewish words. Yes, absolutely.
But he spoke Russian, huh?
He spoke Russian, yes.
Did you speak Russian?
Language, yes. No, sadly not. I think my father was very... he came at the age of 2. And at that time, the revolution was so entrenched that there wasn't any possibility of ever going back. So he very much wanted to assimilate. So as soon as he could, he changed our name from Mironov, which was my original name, to Mirren, and we were not brought up speaking Russian.
Your father, what was his instrument?
The viola. He was a musician. Yeah.
Was he good?
Yes, Yes, he was one of my earliest memories. Well, I don't know if he was good. I have no idea. I think that he gave it up because he realized he was never going to be a sort of, star soloist.
Yeah.
He was always going to be in the orchestra sort of thing. And also, of course, the Second World War intervened and stopped his musical career completely. But my first memories are of him playing the viola, me waking up in the morning and hearing him practicing playing the viola.
So when the war came, do you remember? I mean, when was that? Because I've talked to some
No, that I was born after the end of the war, so I don't.
So it's not
The only
it's not in
things
your
that
memory.
not in my memory, no. But I asked my mom a lot about it. What I couldn't imagine what it must have been like to have
Oh,
bombs
yeah, just rubble. I mean,
coming every night. And my dad worked as an ambulance driver in the war, which
um,
was a very difficult emotion. It must have been physically very difficult. He couldn't join the services. He wanted to join the services, but he had some medical condition, maybe a bone spur. But I think it was.
yeah.
I think it was a bit more serious than that. And he wasn't allowed to join the military. So instead, he drove an ambulance throughout the war in London through the Blitz.
Oh my
And
God.
so that means pulling children out of rubble,
Right.
terrible, terrible sights you must have seen.
I know I can't it's really astounding to me when when any of us talk about or know people that have done these sort of almost unbelievable horrific jobs or tasks, and they just do it, and just by knowing what we go through in the modern world or what we see on TV or the limited amount of exposure we have to that kind of trauma and horror, I mean, just a little bit of it'll blow your mind to
Absolutely, yeah.
and to live in it. I mean, I can't imagine what they carry with them.
I think it's really hard, and it's hard for my generation to comprehend what my parents' generation went through.
Yeah.
A depression before
Yeah.
the Second World War, the rise of fascism, the coming of the Second World War, the endurance of the Second World War, the realization of what Stalin was doing in Russia, and the realization of the Holocaust.
Right.
To have to psychologically deal with all of those things and kind of carry on life and have children. I was born at the end of the Second World, after the end of the Second World War, but I was conceived during the Second World War when all of this was going down.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, what else are you going to do?
In terms of, yes, I guess in terms of human contact.
Right.
But the thought of bringing children
I know.
into this world, do you know what I mean?
I don't know how people do it now. I mean, I don't
know. Me neither.
Because all those things that you're talking about, sadly, we're on the precipice of a generation seeing similar things, in the world.
Yes, we are. It's true. Absolutely.
And
yes.
I have friends who are younger than me. I was never wired for children. I like them, but I'm much too, panicky and selfish to deal with it. So I don't have it.
Me too. Count me in. I mean, thank God I have stepchildren, and
Yeah.
I'm incredibly grateful for the mothers of those stepchildren,
Right.
who've gone through all of that and just given me the pleasure of having stepchildren. I'm with you, Marc.
I don't know how people do it. I mean, and it's like,
I don't know.
It's seemingly natural, and it's really not that I have anything against kids. It's just like, if you give me 2 minutes, I can get anxiety and panic about the children I don't have, like about the children I might have had. Just thinking about it overwhelms me with, I can't do it. I can't.
Do you have nieces and nephews?
I do. I got a few.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice, isn't it? That's a nice relationship.
Sure,
you can be the naughty uncle.
Right.
I bet you are the naughty uncle.
I am.
Yeah.
The one they come to when they're in trouble of some kind, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The one they can talk to. One of the first things I did for my nephew, I gave him a leather jacket at the age of 6.
Good. Good.
A really cool biker jacket.
Yeah.
I gave it to him. It was new. My sister was absolutely horrified. And I said, now this is what you do with a leather jacket. And I took it, I threw it on the ground and I jumped on it.
Got it all messy.
My sister was going, don't do that with a new jacket. But that's the sort of thing you can do when you're the naughty uncle.
I don't see him enough, but I'm okay. There's never a day that goes by where I regret not having children.
No, me neither.